What's up, everybody? This is the Nerd Cave News, your one-stop shop for all the video game news that you need to know. I am one of your hosts, Zach Dykes, joined along with the Telemundo sensation that once faked his death, got plastic surgery, and is your long-lost twin, Ignacio Ortega.
I like it, actually. I like the backstory with it, too. It's like, the Telemundo, I was like, what? Insert Metal Gear alert right here. And it's like, had plastic surgery and is your long lost twin. I'm like, what is happening? Like, if this is the whole name, I'm not remembering a single bit of it.
Ignacio Ortega, how are you doing this week, man?
I am fantastical. How are you?
I am doing awesome. Guys, welcome to the show. You can support us over on patreon.com/nerdcave, just like our wonderful crew members, Brandon Hicks, Richard Newell, Daniel Sanford, Rushing Water Yoga, Marilyn James, Martin Sager, and Brittany, the Granny B. Harrison. They went over, supported Nerd Cave News over at patreon.com/nerdcave, just like you can. Guys, little housekeeping before we get into the show. You can find the Nerd Cave News on a variety of different platforms. Twitch, if you're watching us live, and you can find us over on YouTube and TikTok. Watch us live each and every week on Twitch, and we have pre-show shenanigans, we have post-show shenanigans, or you can go over and watch us on YouTube in the replay. It's just the nice little it's just cut, it's just boom right there. It's like a pound cake. It's just right there. It's good. It's delicious. And
it's that Sara Lee pound cake where you just take a slice as you go.
Yeah, it's literally butter in cake form, guys. And if you want something that is more bite-sized, like chicken nuggets from the Chick-fil-A, you can go over and check it out on TikTok. We have gaming news each and every day, little funny things as well. So just search Nerd Cave Network on any platform and you will be able to find us. Derek, is your body ready?
No, that's not my name. That's not my name. It's Ignacio.
Ignacio Ortega.
We're going to commit to this, you know?
Ignacio Ortega, the Telemundo sensation. The Latin heartthrob. Is your body ready for some gaming news?
Yes, it was born ready.
Some Cyberpunk news. Cyberpunk sold 13.7 million copies in less than a month. Developer indicates only a small percentage of players asked for a refund, and management reportedly received $4 to $6 million in bonuses despite the game's troubles.
Yeah, so this is until that last bit, it was positive news for the most part because, you know, game came out December 10th, I want to say, and then from December 10th to the 31st, pretty much just like 3 weeks, it sold 14 million copies, which is the fastest selling game in that time span. 56% was from the PC side, 28% was sold on PlayStation, and the last 17 was on Xbox, which was weird because Xbox got the marketing rights to it, and it only netted 17% of sales.
Well, when intriguing. You don't have that many consoles compared to PlayStation, you know.
And I found it ironic that, you know, all the hullabaloo, it makes you think about the vocal minority, or people who are like, or maybe most of the player base was like, we've waited this long, like I'm not going to refund the money, I'm just going to wait till it's fixed or at least somewhat playable. But, you know, the refund rating only equaled about $2.2 million in refunds, which is like a fraction of what, you know, they made overall last year. So you would think, as troubled as that game's past or that launch date was, with all the issues, even like running like poo on the PS4 base model and the Xbox One base model, that more people would do refunds. But it's kind of intriguing. But I guess it wasn't enough. It wasn't a lot, as evidenced by the article, as they got $4 to $6 million in bonuses.
Yeah, like reading that, I was very shocked to see the bonuses.
Yeah.
And even like the amount of people asking for refunds, like I know Brandon has said it several times on streams, like even when we're not doing the news, like he would bring up that, the game is not as bad as, like he was able to play through it. He enjoyed the story and everything. He played it a few times, if I remember right. You know, so I'm curious to see like how many people actually played all the way through it. Like I know some people had more issues than others playing through it. Bugs, I know Greg Miller was talking about it, where like he was at a place like the save was like corrupt, and like it would put him in a place that wouldn't pop a trophy or whatever, or wouldn't finish a mission for him, so he couldn't go forward. So he had to go back like 4 or 5 hours. Like that was his last save he had.
Yeah. I think if I remember correctly, he was at the end, like he was rolling credits, and then it hit, like this bug hit and glitched him out, and his last save was from hours ago, and it's like, screw it, I'm not even doing it.
Yeah, that's right. He finished the game and it didn't pop the trophy. That's what it was. Yeah. So I like with management getting 4 to 6 million in bonuses. Like clearly the game sold well enough for them to be able to get bonuses, but if I was the CEO, like whoever, like I would be looking at my management team. I would be, really looking at what's going on and considering shifting things, changing things, because I would not want this same situation to happen again. You can have training, you can do whatever to fix the situation so it never happens again. But you fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. So I would be very cautious of that, especially now that they're getting money. You know what I mean? Like this is like, oh well, even if we crap the bed, we're still getting that money. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
this feels very like Activision-y, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, we don't care. We made money. That's all that matters.
Yeah. So I'm glad like the developers are seeing the game is selling well. And the developers, not the publisher, the developers. And I hope that the game continues to get better, that we can look back at the game and say, this is another, No Man's Sky situation where it did come out. It wasn't good, but it did get fixed. So I'm really looking forward for that to be the case instead of, it being constantly
no one wants to be another
at.
Anthem.
Yeah, exactly. Speaking of games that came out and just were jank as all get out,
there's a theme here these first couple of segments.
Fallout 76 Locked and Loaded update is live, features several heavily requested additions to the game.
Yeah, so, and it's like, in the article I have pulled up here, it's like, fans have long since requested the ability to create loadouts for special attribute setups, and that will finally be possible with the upcoming update. According to Bethesda, beginning at level 25, players can create and save custom special point allocations, i.e. loadouts and perk card assignments, and switch between them freely. Quote, one of the most common requests from the community is now a reality. Special loadouts enable players to completely reset a character's special attributes, allowing for quick build overhauls. To swap loadouts, edit perk cards, or special points, simply visit a punch card machine. Then it's like, punch card machines are built in the camp or found at multiple train stations situated throughout the Appalachian landscape. This isn't the only community requested feature coming to the game in the new Locked and Loaded update. However, players have now been limited to one camp since the game's launch, and the Fallout 76 community has continued to ask for additional slots. That's now a possibility with this new update. Quote, with camp slots, players can build multiple different camps, each with its own location, build, budget, custom name, and even a unique map icon. Players can set one active camp at a time and easily switch among them using a new camp build widget for the camp icon on the map.
Awesome. I'm glad that the game is getting the much needed love. I'm curious to see how much of them getting out of the very bad relationship of the former owners of Bethesda.
Yeah.
Where it was very focused on getting money, getting the game out quick. That, you know, we definitely saw that problem with Fallout 76. That it was a get rich quick kind of scheme.
Yeah.
And game development is not that. Like, if you do it right, you can make a lot of money, but it takes time and it takes a lot of investment in it. You could definitely look at, instead of going with Sony, I will go with Xbox on this. Xbox has put a lot of time and investment into Game Pass. Game Pass is utterly crushing it right now and making money hand over fist. It's because
we'll get to that later in the show.
It's because there's love and attention that has went into it, but there's been tons of time and tons of money. It was not just something thrown out there to just get money. It was well done. The system is there. It's in place. And even before that, Xbox Live was established. So there is an infrastructure there for everything to work properly. So
yes,
unlike Fallout 76 when it launched, I'm hoping that Locked and Loaded will continue to bring stuff. And with Microsoft now owning Bethesda, I think we will see the love and attention that this game needs. ZeniMax is the one that developed this, right?
Yes.
So I'm curious to see, with the guidance, and even, you know, we saw Coalition come on and help Halo Infinite's development. I'm curious to see, you know, if they shift some other people to help just kind of get things rolling, like, you know.
Get like go in and do some cleanup and do some proper, you know, like you said, TLC. And you know, I remember right before COVID hit, like they had this roadmap like that included a battle royale just as a quick cash grab. And I don't know whatever happened to that mode. And one of the other things I have planned, I know they finally put out Wastelanders a while back, so that you know, they put that out. But I don't know what happened. I don't know if they canned the battle royale because there was no interest and they just figured, you know what, the space is crowded right now. Let's not let's work on fixing our game before we keep adding new stuff to the fire.
Yeah, because I think that's, you know, one of the biggest problems with this game is that it was just continually just trying to hit a trend, trying to get, you know, games of service. Oh, well, now it's battle royale, so we got to go do that, you know. And I think it's getting on the right track.
Right, and I think too is like they also like, if this can even develop into Elder Scrolls Online, it'll be a win for it too, because, you know, Elder Scrolls, they didn't have as many issues as Fallout, but they just had server issues like common stuff, and they were like the monthly payment plan too. But then they went back to the drawing board. They said, all right, let's nix this. Let's just make it free to play. And of course, there's still microtransactions or whatnot, but, you know, with the crowns, but they made it, and now it's still running to this day. Like, you know, what was it? The next expansion's fixing to come out for it. I know they put out Skyrim stuff recently, so it keeps on chugging. So if they can make it to Elder Scrolls Online like they did Fallout 76, they'll be golden. And I think too, to your point, it's like, I think they try it following trends. Is like, oh, they saw that, oh, Elder Scrolls Online is making us money now. Let's try and fast track this with Fallout 76 as our online, and it didn't work out the same way.
Yeah, and now that they're, you know, it's not just about getting money, that it's like, okay, Microsoft's like, hey, we need this game to be good. So we need you to shift focus off of things that are not going to go well. Clearly that battle royale is one of them.
Yeah.
You know, we need you to make this game run, and we need you to add the things, because that Fallout has a very specific kind of gameplay. And I think that's one reason I didn't get into Elder Scrolls Online, was it felt different than the base games. But, you know, they have their place. Clearly they're doing very well. So I'm glad to hear that they are, you know, actually listening and putting in features that people have requested, and continuing to improve on this game. And I hope to see it get better and better.
Yeah.
Speaking of games that I hope gets better and better, especially before release, Dying Light 2 developer has an AMA and reveals new details about the game.
Yeah, so it details about including map size, enemy types, and more. The map is obviously double the size of Dying Light 1. All the maps for Dying Light 1 combined. This isn't just laterally as the size incorporated vertically as well. Skyscrapers, roofs, bridges, and more also connect these buildings more than the first game. The new enemy type that has branches coming from him. An information drop on the infected in the game is planned for the future. Dying Light's 2 world in the day also works by having the infected hide in buildings during the day, coming out only at night in large numbers, which kind of is a tribute. Like the dead didn't hide in buildings in Dying Light 1, but the super zombies came out at night during in Dying Light 1. They also confirmed that firearms won't be in Dying Light 2. Bows and other ranged weapons will be in the game, however, such as a handmade shotgun. So in other words, it's going to take like the Far Cry A New Dawn thing where it's like you can build your own weapon type thing. The game's narrative choice system was also explained, with you making choices on 3 different levels. The top level changes reflects choices in the main story and the ending you get. The second choice level are the ones you make within quests or missions that are contained within those quests, or can have an effect on the world. The third tier of choice is a city alignment system where your choices will change how factions behave and where they have dominance in the city.
So my question, like, it said there won't be firearms in the game. So, like, are you just like fighting zombies with a flipping bow and arrow, or are there?
Let me go back and let me see, because that didn't sit right with me either when I read it.
I'm just like, this sounds like it's going to be really difficult.
Yeah, it says Techland also confirms that firearms won't be in Dying Light 2. Bows and other ranged weapons will be in the game, however, such as a handmade shotgun. So in other words, I think you can make your own weapons, but don't expect to have like a Smith & Wesson shotgun or like pretty much like pre-built, I guess you can say, but you can make your own stuff, I guess.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know how I feel about that one, but as long as you can make stuff that are like, okay, I'm going to make an AK or whatever, you know what I mean? Like you have a version of like more heavy hitting weapons than just a bow and arrow. It's fine. Yeah, that was the one definitely stood out to me. And then I wonder, like you were saying, like the zombies will like hide in indoors and everything. I wonder if you go into like certain places, will like there be like more in certain buildings, you know what I mean? Like it's like,
yeah, like and in certain, like in the few gameplay snippets they've actually put out, like when you're parkouring into buildings, there will be zombies in some of those buildings.
Yeah, especially if they're hiding during the day and everything. So which if I didn't play a ton of Dying Light 1, like even during the day, like there were still zombies out in the streets.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like the super strong zombies.
Right. And, that's what I was talking about earlier. It's like, you still had different zombies come out at night, but there were still some during the day, which makes it's interesting from a narrative perspective. But then again, I guess in this setting, there's more people. So I guess, the zombies, I don't know if that forces them to go in, or maybe they're like, because I forget how much time has passed between the first 2 games. So maybe like the zombies have developed like a thing where they can't go out. Like it's like, I Am Legend, where it's like, the sun hurts. So
I'm curious to see where it's going to go, and I'm glad that they're doing more on the development. Hopefully they have kind of narrowed things down instead of the game director just like, hey, I want this thing, I want that thing. It's like,
throw in a helicopter, but why? Just because I want it.
It's like I played a My Pony game from 2008 the other day. I want that feature in this game. What feature? My Little Pony. Sir, we don't have the rights to it. I don't care. Put My Little Pony in there.
Sir, do you not realize what game we're making? I don't care.
So hopefully it's getting better. Welcome, Ryan. Hope you're doing well today, and thank you for dropping by. we're doing well, man. Just getting to enjoy some news this lovely morning. Moving on, guys. Super Mario Party gets new online modes 2 years after its release.
Yeah. So in here, what I have is previously players could only enjoy Super Mario Party's party and party modes in offline co-op, but today's free update will modify the game so that players can host and play matches online. It's not entirely clear why the update has been added so long after release, but it's welcome news for those who, for fairly obvious reasons, might be heading to their friends' houses right now. Let's see. Mario Party is whereas Party is a special 2v2 version of the same format. Don't know what party mode, but Mario Party is your standard 4-player dice rolling board game, whereas Party is a special 2v2. So yeah. So pretty much the staple features are getting online functionality, which makes sense. Bless you. But yeah, it is kind of weird that it is like it's on one hand you can be like, oh, they're keeping the game relevant and whatnot and giving people a reason to go back and play this, instead of having to, especially in the time of COVID where some places are still doing like stay at home, lockdown, like small gathering features. Not everyone can do that, but they still want to play Mario Party. So but the fact that it's come 2 years after release is still like, why?
Yeah, I'm curious. Maybe they're just wanting to support it, like they see the need for it. So, maybe sell some more copies of a game that they've already developed,
I mean, they see how Gangbuster Mario Kart 8, a re-release on Switch, has been killing it. We talked about it last week. It's the best-selling Mario Kart game Mario game of all time, it's the best-selling, I think, racing game of all time.
It's the best-selling racing game in the United States of all time.
Yeah,
that's what it was.
So,
and Nintendo literally has 3 of the top MPD numbers of like the year so far. Yeah, so they're absolutely destroying them. Speaking of Nintendo news, Animal Crossing's new update info drop and includes seasonal event changes, which Amy did one of the seasonal events last night on stream. She did the Mayday Island last night, and we'll be putting that up on YouTube, or you can check out the VOD on Twitch.
Yep. Amy, I posted this specifically for you because I know you're a huge fan, among others. I know Brittany Granny B. Harrison is also a fan of Animal Crossing. So yeah, the events, it started last night, as you said, the Mayday event, and it'll run through May 7th. That'll be next Friday. It says, with your Mayday ticket, take an interesting island tour for a special surprise. Then through May 18th through May 31st, you have International Museum Day, which is stamp rally returns. Talk to Blathers to receive a special stamp card, which you can use when inspecting a variety of creatures in New Horizons. Then you have from June 1st to June 30th, the entire month of June, wedding season. Love is in the air following Reese and Cyrus's wedding last year, and now it's time to celebrate again by meeting back up on Harvey's Island. Exclusive wedding-themed items will also be returning at Able Sisters and Nook Shopping. Then we have the seasonal events. Nook Shopping will have special new items throughout the month of May and June, including furniture and DIY recipes to celebrate Mother's Day, cheese rolling, and more. The usual changes can be expected as well, including new bugs and fish making their way into the game. Nintendo has also said that there will be differences noted in the returning events, giving players a fresh reason to jump back into island life and the ability to play new content. And then, of course, the new patch, version 1.10, with the most recent, like the general updates, with all the seasonal events. It's now possible to wake up from a dream by using the minus button. The following content has also been added: additional limited time seasonal items from Nook Shopping, and then fixed issues. Fixed an issue where the player can build a fence on their pier when standing on top of a custom design placed on the ground. Other adjustments and corrections were made to improve the gameplay experience.
Like, I love how much time and dedication is going into Animal Crossing. It just shows the commitment to this game, and it being, just over a year. We just celebrated the year anniversary of this game going out. That it's constantly getting seasonal content. It's all been free, and like that. Like, even just this update, like several different little things going on throughout the summer and everything, because a lot of times summers, this is when kids are playing games the most. People are, have more time off. So I'm glad to see that they're doing this. And I will say the Mayday island. Gonna have fun trying to figure that thing out. So we figured it out last night on stream and everything, but it was difficult. It was fun, but it was difficult.
And it goes back to, because I remember when you came and visited me back in December, we talked about this finally hit the form. Animal Crossing has always been huge, but it's for the most part been a cult following, a little cult hit. But this one really put it on the map, and it's really doing gangbusters. So now it's pretty much its coming out party for Animal Crossing.
Yeah,
and Nintendo knows that. Nintendo sees that, and it's like, hey, Mario and Zelda, we've got those on lock. Let's bring another franchise to light, because it's ironic. I forget his name right now, but the one of the people that created New Horizons or helped do work on it also made the Splatoon franchise, and we saw how successful that is. The first one got its foot in the door. The second one, we saw how much support it got. It was in one of Nintendo's own their own version of an esports game, and then we just saw a few months ago that they announced a third entry into the series. So. Yep. Splatoon, they took what the curation and the love for Splatoon and put this into Animal Crossing, and it's shown.
Yeah, and I'm excited to see where it goes. I don't think we'll get a new Animal Crossing in a while. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, I'm trying to get overall numbers for Breath of the Wild. When was this? That was June 3rd of last year. Okay, so as of last year, Breath of the Wild sold 16.34 million units on the Switch and 1.6 million units on the Wii U. So just under 18 million last year. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sure it is sold probably. I'm gonna say another 10 million.
Oh yeah, easily.
Be nice on that. Probably another 10 million. Animal Crossing has sold 35.12 million copies.
Wow.
And Breath of the Wild came out on the launch of the Switch. It was the launch game. And
for the longest time, the only game.
Yeah. And what was funny is a lot of people owned Breath of the Wild and not a Switch at the start of it.
I know. I was saying, oh, the Switch. I remember seeing that NPD report. It's oh, the Switch has only sold this much. Breath of the Wild has sold this much. I'm like, those numbers don't add up. And then I remembered, oh, it's on the Wii U as well.
Yeah. Well, people were getting the game in anticipation of getting a Switch.
Oh, that's a good point too.
So why I bring that up is people of all sides of gaming enjoy Animal Crossing, and a lot of people are under the thought process that Zelda sells really well because it's one of the main franchises for Nintendo, but clearly a game that has been out since the launch of the Switch, let's say has sold 30 million since Switch came out in 2017, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So a game that came out
March 3rd, 2017.
Thank you, man. A game that came out last year has 35 million copies sold.
Yeah.
That says a lot about how many people I think, having the internet, TikTok, Instagram, and all of that has done a good job of selling the game. Because during the middle of the summer last year, people were posting.
That was a quarantine game.
Yeah. So I'm excited for Animal Crossing. I'm glad that it is continuing to do more and more awesome stuff. Let's move on to our next story of the week. This is a speculation and a rumor. There are hints that NetherRealm, which is the developer of the Mortal Kombat series and DC's Injustice, is working on a Marvel fighting game, which would be totally awesome.
Yeah, this is huge to me because it's crossing streams, because WB is the publisher, and what does WB own? DC.
Yep.
So Like it's interesting to see those if that comes to light, because then that it raises two questions, because they've been churning out like this. They're on their third different version of Mortal Kombat 11 with the Ultimate Edition, right?
Yep.
And everyone's anticipating when Injustice 3 is coming out. Well, haven't said mum on that, and maybe this is why. Maybe they're working on a Marvel now. Of course, I'm sure Marvel came to WB and was like, "Hey, look, we don't want to step on your toes, but we like your fighting games. We tried Capcom, and they made a terrible Marvel vs. Capcom game. We want to try your hand at this." So,
yeah, I would be curious to see how this works. If they would be as violent as, like, Injustice is not as violent as Mortal Kombat for sure.
Yeah.
But it does have a much darker story. The combat is pretty brutal still overall. Like, it does not have like the X-ray, bones breaking, people like pulling spleens out of other people and everything. But the games are amazing. The story is amazing. Like, the story mode is great. The combat is great. Just the diverse characters. Remember Injustice 1, if you played as Batgirl, you could literally beat anybody and they would never get a punch off of you.
Yep.
I remember David playing that game, using Batgirl, and would just keep using that move over and over and over. I'm just like, it's not even fair, man. But Injustice 2, we saw a deeper kind of customization of your characters with the different parts and everything.
They introduced a loot system, which wasn't as controversial, but a little overdone.
Yeah, like it was kind of hard to get all the parts and everything, but the overall, like, just how the online was more solid and everything. I think they've definitely gotten better and better with online play as they went and everything. So I'd be curious to see what they would do. I think NetherRealm is the king of fighters. It is like there are a lot of good games out there, but I think NetherRealm, it's the most easily accessible, unlike Street Fighter or Virtual Fighter or Tekken. Like, all of those are kind of harder to get into. NetherRealm, it's like you can jump into a Mortal Kombat or Injustice and feel like you're actually doing something.
Right. And I think they'll take the more of the Injustice route, where it's like, hey, look, there will be blood, but we're not going to sever your head off your your body or anything like that. It's not going to be anything. They realize at the end of the day, this is a superhero genre. They don't want to portray that. Like, now, if they did an Invincible fighting game, that's a whole nother thing. I think they would go more the MK route for that one. But with Marvel, if they do this, now this raises the question though, because I don't remember, because I know they haven't done anything for Injustice 2 in a long time. Like, they only started doing this like elongated support for Mortal Kombat 11. They didn't give the same treatment to either Injustice game. So that raises the question is, let's say this is true, right? And let's just say, for hyperbole here, it's successful, massively successful, because we all know, because I read something today, this morning, where it's like, and like fans pretty much vote that Marvel is more popular than DC in a lot of aspects, and that's in large part thanks to the MCU. What if this does widely successful because of the fan base, and then does this mean they still do Injustice 3, or does this mean they just drop Injustice altogether?
I think, when you've got the company that owns you is a DC thing, I think it would be, because we see Naughty Dog, they're literally working on multiple games right now. Like, I think NetherRealm could stack itself where it could develop multiple fighting games at one time. I don't think it's out of the possible. I think people enjoy Injustice so much that it would be counterintuitive not to work on another Injustice. That being said, like, yes, I think Marvel might get its game before we get an Injustice 3, which is totally fine, because we've already got 2 Injustices. So we could get a Marvel game out, and I think it would do well. They support it, and then they pull majority of the team to start working on Injustice 3 or the next Mortal Kombat, which would probably be the cycle, because it's usually whatever Mortal other
Kombat,
game
Injustice.
It's been kind of that flip-flop and everything, which because Injustice 2 came out after X, right? Or was X after Injustice 2?
It was Injustice 2 came out 2016, 2017. Yeah. So they did every like couple of years because they would do like Injustice, and the next year do the Ultimate Edition. Then they did MKX. Then they did the uh, Ultimate Edition of that. Then they put out Injustice 2, and I think 2017. Then they put out the Ultimate Edition the following year. So it's like until MK11, they did like an every couple of years thing. So we don't, now that more and more fighting games are giving like multiple season passes and like elongated tails to their lifespan, we're going to see what this does for the development cycle going forward.
Yeah, so I could definitely see Marvel being the next one, and then we get another Mortal Kombat, and then we get an Injustice. Unless NetherRealm
now,
builds
granted,
up.
Yeah, this thought crossed my head too. Granted, both sides would have to play ball, but what if they worked on a DC versus Marvel fighting game?
Dude, that would sell gangbusters. That would sell gangbusters. Like that would print like Fortnite money. That would literally print Fortnite money, because everybody wants to see that. Like people want to see Wolverine versus Batman, or Tony Stark versus whoever, like Superman versus Thor, like, or the Hulk, like oh my gosh, like it would be like on if you crafted an awesome story around it, and you get into that thing where people are like, well, that's not like, oh, that wouldn't happen. It's like whoever's writing the story gets to determine who wins, whoever has the vested interest in who, you know what I mean? Yeah. So like, I think the story would be awesome. It could be a lot of, because back in the 90s, they did a few crossovers of Marvel and DC, and they even had where like Wolverine and Batman, like there was a character like both of them merged together, and it was called like Dark Claw. Like interesting. So like all the different characters like merged together. I think Superman and Captain America merged together. So like you could even bring that in as like a DLC, like you could have those characters come in or something, that would have a lot more legs than just continuing the Marvel and then DC game. But having a Marvel versus DC or DC versus Marvel, you could name it something really cool. I think that would be awesome. Yeah. So take note, Marvel and DC.
NetherRealm.
We want you to make a game where both of them are fighting each other. And you know who wins? The fans win.
Exactly.
The fans win. Man, could you imagine like Superman fighting the Hulk? Like in a video game.
Yeah. Like, it would be ridiculous.
It would be
Captain America fighting Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
So
Black Widow fighting Black Canary.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Quicksilver and Flash.
Yeah. Thor and who could Thor fight? Thor and Shazam.
Oh yeah, that'll say Doctor Strange and Dr. Fate.
So you could do Namor and Aquaman.
Yeah. There's possibility. The possibilities are endless.
It would be so good. Like it would print money. It would print money. Welcome back, Murdoch, and hope that your allergies, you're healed in the name of Jesus, man. We're praying for you, buddy. All right, guys, let's move on to the Xbox news. There's no Xbox news. Let's move on to the PlayStation. I'm kidding. It's joke.
Brandon Butson, you're kicked from the ship.
I can't remember what Colin used to say.
You're dismissed.
Yeah, you're dismissed. Xbox Q3 sales show a 232% growth thanks to the Xbox Series X and S, Bethesda, and Minecraft. Also, new Halo Infinite details revealed, including crossplay and cross progression for Xbox and PC. And finally, Microsoft is reducing its PC sales cut to match Epic Games Store.
Yeah, so the NPD like their yearly earnings call have come up, for Xbox and for PlayStation, as we'll get to in the next segment. Got a lot of segments on that one. But yeah, 232% growth. And let's see, those systems didn't come available until Q2. The Xbox Series X and S demand has driven immense growth for the brand. In a more generalized sense, Microsoft reports that Xbox's overall revenue has seen a 50% increase year over year, including a boost in software and services with an increase of 34%, in large part due to Game Pass, as we alluded to earlier in the show. Mm-hmm. It's just ridiculous at this point. According to the now public Microsoft earnings report, quote, Xbox content and services revenue grew 34%, driven by the strength from third-party titles, Xbox Game Pass subscriptions, and first-party titles. And, Bethesda having to do, getting, when they finally made the acquisition available, they added a bunch of Bethesda properties on Game Pass last month or earlier this month. And that drove up sales in Game Pass. What was I reading here? For those who think that the Minecraft community may be dead, the Microsoft staple has also seen a massive increase, with monthly active users jumping up by 30% year over year, making the grand total of players close to 140 million.
Holy
Microsoft
moly.
also, I know, I didn't think I knew tons of people playing Minecraft, but up to 140 million, that's ridiculous. That's like console territory, the amount of units.
Yeah.
Microsoft also reports that it has experienced over 350 million in revenue driven by Xbox users purchasing mods and DLC content for the building game. So 350 million over 140 million users. That's ridiculous. And then to go on the what is it? Let me go to the Halo news. Has been revealed, including the upcoming shooter from 343, blah, 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 blah. Not only will players be able to play with their friends no matter the generation or platform within the Windows family, but they won't lose any progress should they choose to bounce between PC and Xbox. In addition to being more accessible in terms of availability, Microsoft has also confirmed that 343 Industries is working hard to ensure that the PC version of Halo Infinite exceeds expectations. One of the ways that it is doing just that is offering a, quote, premier PC experience, with features like ultra-wide and super ultra-wide support, triple keybinds, a wider variety of, quote, advanced graphic options, and more. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, so it seems like because Halo started as a PC game. It eventually became one of the flagship properties. It eventually became one of the flagship properties for Xbox, down the road. But they're going back to they don't want to forget their roots. It's like, hey, we knew we started on PC. We haven't really, at least from a marketing and PR standpoint, given enough attention to detail on PC and with recent entries as we have been. But we're letting you know we're still committed to PC community. We see the growing player base on PC, and it's like, hey, look, we want to give y'all something to invest in as well. And I think the cross progression, because one of my best friends, he was Xbox for the longest time. He had a PlayStation also, but he was longest Xbox, and then he eventually went the PC route as well. So, if other people do that, they don't want to start over. Like, how many times do people say when they switch console bases, like, I don't want to restart all my stuff over again. I want to keep this. Now you have a reason to make that switch and not have that weighing in the back of your mind.
Yeah. And we saw this start with Destiny. They started doing cross progression on there in Destiny 2 and everything. And with Microsoft or Halo being Halo Infinite, getting that kind of treatment with the PC and everything, it's something that has plagued Halo for a very long time, that they would release on consoles and then it would be months to a year or even more that you would see the PC version come out. So a lot of people would play the game on Xbox and then eventually it would come out on PC. So I'm glad to see that they're doing they're giving the treatment that they want, and people are using ultra wide monitors that they've got higher fidelity and everything. So they're putting that there, and that it's not just like, okay, here's the Xbox whatever version, just port it over for PC. It's like they're putting in that love and attention and detail to it, which I really like. I'm glad that they're doing, and having cross play and cross progression. Of course, Xbox and PC, like, that's needed. Like we already see games that do that, like Among Us. We'll get to this here in a minute. Among Us playing on PC, tablets, phones, Nintendo, and we'll soon be adding others to it as well. Like if somebody like Among Us can do that, you need to you need to get on board. You need to go on board.
Exactly. And to switch gears here too to the PC revenue thing is like, they talked about Epic Game Store, because Epic Game Store has like a 70-30 cut between, publishers, developers, and, what they make from their store. And they say, quote, as part of our commitment to empower every PC game creator to achieve more, starting on August 1st, the developer share of Microsoft Store PC game sales net revenue will increase to 88% from 70%. A clear no strings attached revenue share means developers can bring more games to more players and find greater commercial success from doing so, end quote. So it goes on to say here, the shift to 88% from 70% is an exact match for Epic Game Store within the previous 70% matching streams current quo. So I think there's it's a twofold thing. Like, it's great for creators who want to put their their content on those platforms. And I think it's also a thing for Microsoft basically to incentivize people. It's like, hey, we need more revenue on PC, or we need to generate more content, more revenue, and people need to spend more money on our PC store. Let's do this. Let's make it more friendly. So, and that's been the theme of Xbox since Phil Spencer takeover. Is like, let's be more for the gamers. And now that they're widening their branch to PC and mobile, they're like, hey, let's just we're not forgetting you guys. Like, obviously there's a huge player install base for these other platforms that we've created. Let's give some love to them too. And it's like, hey, look, because you guys matter too. You guys give us money just like everyone else.
Yeah. And so they're going from the developer would get 70% to the developer would get 88%, correct? Is that what
Yes.
Okay. So like that incentivizes people to put their games on to the PC side of things instead of, okay, well, we'll just put it on Epic and we'll sign an exclusive deal with Epic.
Right.
Okay. Now
it's
a lot
less red tape.
Yeah. And that's going to make Epic have to be even more, competitive with it and everything. So now we're going to see, what does Epic do? Does Steam change anything? Or does Steam continue just like, oh, we're big enough where everybody wants to be on our platform. We don't care. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Like Steam is pretty much like this is pretty much like the Amazon of the gaming world. It's like, we do so many sales already. Or like, you'll be here for our summer sale. It'll be all right. They have throwaway money at this point. So I do think it would behoove Steam to show that, like, hey, we're not just sitting on our hands, and we appreciate all the revenue from from the decades of, or however long they've been in existence, but we need to start caring about you guys too.
Yeah. They need to get off their 5-gallon bucket and make some changes, because for me, like Steam is okay. Like Steam is just a place to get games. Like I don't really care for the interaction with the store or the platform. But you've got these other companies that are trying to make things, happen and go and change things and make it better for the gamer and the developer and everything. Murdoch says, I do. Murdoch likes Steam, guys. But for me, it's like, I like competition because it makes people better. So I'm curious to see what does happen and everything. And I'm glad to see Microsoft actually focusing on the PC side of things and trying to make it better. Because that's where it started.
It's crazy. I was just about to say, you beat me to it. It's crazy that a company that started off as a PC hardware and software company is caring about PC decades later. What a concept.
Yeah. Murdoch says he's on a trial right now for Xbox Pass Ultimate and seeing if it is worth it.
Nice.
I know I used Ultimate for a while and I really enjoyed it. Loved the ability to go from playing whatever on my PC and being able to switch right over to my Xbox. I did it with Gears 5. I did it with Outer Worlds. It was seamless, and I loved it. So I, maybe one of these days I'll get Game Pass again.
Yeah, and I'm saying, and though at the rate Microsoft is going, it's like, oh, get your first month for $1, get your first 3 months for $2 or whatnot. They give it away because they know at this point the service speaks for themselves. And, this was talked about a year or so ago that, game spending actually goes up after people play on Game Pass and get to try a game out before they fully commit to it. And like, because, the whole thing about spending $60 or now $70 is like, I don't know if I want to do that. Well, with Game Pass, you can try. It's basically it's a trial, but you get a whole game to try out. And it's like, if you don't play it, depending on your time constraints, it's like, if you don't finish it, but you really enjoyed it, it's like, and it's not on Game Pass, you know what? It's worth the buy, and they see that Game Pass is not just basically a subscription-based increase in revenue. It's also a game sales increase in revenue too. And it's just like, look, we can just give this away for free basically, and we don't care. The ROI will speak for itself.
Yeah. And that's awesome. Like that it's not just this subscription, but it's also game purchases, and that it just speaks to what they're doing. And I'm hoping, I know we've talked about it several times on the show the last like 3 or 4 weeks, that I hope that PlayStation is actually going to put something out like that in the next year or so, because clock is ticking.
Yep.
Come on, Shuhei. Full of grace. Bless us.
Knock some sense into these fools up at the top.
Yes. Do it. Do it with a smile on your face.
Or no, give him that stern look that you gave Cory Barlog in early development stages of God of War. Maybe that'll get him to.
Speaking of PlayStation, guys, we're going to move into our PlayStation news segment.
I know.
The last few weeks we have graced you with a ton of PlayStation news, and I'm glad that
this is 3 weeks running, I want to say, right?
Yeah.
Like 3 weeks straight that we've had a segment just devoted to PlayStation.
I remember not too long ago where there was hardly any PlayStation news, and it was dry.
Now they can't shut up.
So yesterday there was a Ratchet and Clank State of Play along with a few other things. So we're going to get into some Ratchet and Clank details. We saw in the trailer that there's a female Lombax. Is that how you pronounce that? Okay.
Yeah, Lombax.
Named Rivet. She will be voiced by Jennifer Hell, best known for voicing female Commander Shepard from Mass Effect. Mark Mothersbaugh. Composer of Thor Ragnarok and the Jack and Daxter series, is composing the score, which is awesome. Will not have microtransactions and load times possibly even faster at launch. Will have a neat DualSense features and will include a lot of accessibility features. The gameplay shows wall running and dash abilities along with open areas and a photo mode. A lot of information.
A lot of good info. A lot of good info dump, and my goodness, like Ratchet and Clank has always been a special series. It's like one of the first gaming series I played on my PS2. Like, so it has a special place in my heart.
Like hyped on Ratchet and Clank. I never played anything until the 2016 game.
Yeah, so which reminds me, I need to go back and play that again, just for my own benefit. But there was a few things on PS3, like the last great game everyone can agree on was A Crack in Time on PS3. Then they did some weird ones. They did this like weird Den Defense one, and then they did this weird it wasn't weird, but they did a co-op centric game around it where it's like the 4 players, and that was okay. But then they did a Den Defense, and it was woof. Why would you ruin that series like that? But now it seems like Insomniac is like buckling down. It's like, hey, people really still care about this franchise that we created like 2 generations ago.
Yeah.
For our, this is a tongue in cheek when I say this, or for our TikTok, if you only have a PS2 or PS3, it's current gen for you apparently. No, and they realize like, hey, it seems like they're giving this the same love and care that they've given the Spider-Man games, because it's like, hey, they're not just throwing another one out there to put in the series. Like, people love this, people want this, and like all these features make me excited about the franchise again, to me, because it's just like, all right, look, you're doing new things with the franchise, you're putting a fresh coat of paint on it, not just putting it a buy of the number series and making me care for it. Because the DualSense features that they have, we'll see, like It'll definitely make use of the triggers, obviously. Specifically, the developer said that depending on how hard you depress the triggers, the different attack output you'll get from each weapon. The burst pistol can do single shots with a quick press, but a full squeeze on the right trigger will cause a massive spread of rounds to be fired in the direction of the enemy. The enforcer weapon, for example, will fire a single barrier when the fire button is quickly pressed, but a spirited squeeze will result in both barrels being discharged. So that's going to be, it almost seems like the DualSense is like its own system in itself, right? Like that's like the key feature that everyone wants to develop around. Like, back in the PS4, everyone wanted to do like photo mode. And if your game didn't have photo mode, you're already behind the times. And it seems like now, like all the DualSense features, like they're making it cool. Like whether it's like a cheap gimmick, it's at least more viable, the features they made in this controller than they did the touchpad on PS4.
Well, that's what I was about to say. Like, I remember at the beginning, it was all about the touchpad. It was all about doing something with it. And like, I'm trying to remember, it might have been Assassin's Creed Black Flag or something. I remember like the touchpad, like you had to do something with it. Like you had to like draw or I can't remember. It was one of the early games that was on it and everything. So I'm glad to see like the haptic feedback is great. I wonder like who has to come up with the different adjectives to describe a long press instead of like a quick press, a spirited press. It's like,
I know, right. Whoever wrote this article definitely was trying to be creative with their wording in this one for sure.
Yeah.
And to touch on the accessibility features too, is like, it'll have a slew of accessibility options for players. For the brief glimpse we get in the trailer, these include simplified traversal, camera sensitivity, camera shake sliders, and the ability to turn button holds into toggles and vice versa, alongside flight assistance and the ability to have a ledge guard avoiding you falling off. Film grains, motion blur, chromatic aberration, and more can be adjusted and turned off in the settings, with a high contrast mode also available, alongside the ability to choose which shader color each item and object in the game is signified by and icon sizes.
That's awesome because like, some of it's more of like the fill and everything, the film grain, the motion blur and all of that. But then you get into like more of the, like colorblind, being able to adjust the size of icons so it's easier to see with people that have, more vision impaired and everything. So I'm glad to see that, that happening. I'm curious to see if more first party at least will do something like that. And maybe even third party.
Well, and technically, like, third party definitely needs to set up, but like with photo mode, like PlayStation pretty much invented a reason to create a photo mode because you see Nintendo Switch adopting that as well now with a lot of their games. But PlayStation also started like with their accessibility features. Like I know this has been a hot topic, and I don't want to say it's the first game, but it definitely is like the game with the most. But Last of Us Part 2 had such a wide, I think it won a Game Award for how diversified its accessibility features were. Like, I forget his last name, but the blind gamer, Steve Saylor, the blind gamer, he's been an advocate for accessibility features in games for a long time, and it showed a video of him breaking down crying at all the accessibility features Last of Us Part 2 had. And I think that's going to be a staple going forward because I think Ghost of Tsushima also has accessibility features. And I think some even of the older PlayStation exclusives have added, like how when photo mode came out, like some of the older games added a photo mode. I think they've also added accessibility features for their games as well. So I think at least from a first party perspective, we'll see this going forward. Now it's up to whether third party wants to do it or not. Because I think COD may have had some accessibility features, but I'm not too certain on that one.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm glad to see more of it. And I know Xbox is in the same boat with trying to put more accessibility, that even creating controllers that are, around that idea and everything. And to see, more people to get to be able to be enjoying games, that they're not having to make their own contraptions or inventions just to be able to play a game. So I'm glad to see that first parties, and I hope that third parties will see the reason and the need for this, that it won't just be passing them by.
Right.
Any other stuff?
And I was gonna Yeah, and I was going to say too, like, how do you like that Jennifer Hale, FemShep herself, is coming to voice the Rivet, the female Lombax in this game, and then having Thor Ragnarok and the Jack and Daxter composer come and do the score is like, it's like those first 2 points are just like it just oozes greatness because, well, I shouldn't be that bold, but it's like it just oozes like this game is going to have great potential for it to come out, you know, because they're putting known voice actors behind some of these characters, and then the fact that they're bringing in a composer from arguably one of a lot of people's favorite Marvel film in Thor Ragnarok, and a lot of from the great game series in Jack and Daxter composing the score. It's like it goes back to Insomniac is basically doubling down. It's like, look, we made this great property in Spider-Man. We've made it great. We've done all the things people love. Let's give the same love to Ratchet and Clank now. You know, like it's due time that we give a fresh revitalization for this series.
Yeah, and it's it says to me, this is not just we're putting out another one, we're putting a number on it or whatever. That it is. Sirens are on my side, by the way, guys. Yeah. That way you aren't just like I'm getting pulled over. It's saying we're willing to get high quality, high caliber voice actors, and then having Mark Mothersbaugh whatever having a film composer come into games is one thing, but having a game composer, like he's both, he's worked on big projects, so he understands how to do it. So that knowledge and know-how is going to come into play big time into this game. And it just tells me like, this is going to be awesome. This is going to be a great game.
It is. And like, I know they oozed over the SSD, like, and they talked about even faster loading times, which is going to be insane. Like, I told you, like, the loading time for Miles Morales is insane already. Like, if it basically is just like 2 seconds, like just butter, like water flowing down, like it's going to be interesting. And the open areas are going to be intriguing too, because we saw kind of this in Last of Us Part 2 as well. Like, they never classified it as open world, but it's like big hub areas. So I want to see how big they go with that, because, they have worked on open world Spider-Man games. So it's wondering, I wonder how big are they going to make this?
Yeah, I'm excited for it. I'm curious why they said anything about microtransactions, because this game doesn't seem like it would be considered. I don't know.
Well, bolts. Maybe they figured, maybe they'll introduce like you can buy bolts to upgrade your weapons faster, like buy stuff faster, and then they're like, no, you'll earn it all in game. It'll be fine.
Okay. Yeah, I was just like, why does that even need to be said? But some people being weird. But let's continue on. Some more state of play details that came out yesterday. Subnautica Below Zero is coming to PlayStation 5 on May 14th. We'll offer a free upgrade for the PS4 owners, and we'll have 4K 60 frames per second and DualSense support. And also, First Subnautica is also coming to the PlayStation 5 on May 14th with a free upgrade to PS4 owners. So just let's hit on the Subnautica stuff. This game has been out for a while, but I'm glad to see that it is getting support on consoles, that it's literally right around the corner. Below Zero, I haven't got to play it yet, but I enjoyed the little bit that I got to play of the original Subnautica. A lot of fun. And that free upgrade. Do you hear this, Square Enix and PlayStation and whoever is dumb enough to not give free upgrades to things like
Activision?
Activision. 2K. All of you, like, this is how you do it. This is how you don't fracture a player base and have people badmouth you on the internet.
Well, and to touch on this, like, yes, Final Fantasy definitely is woof. Why not? But Marvel Avengers, you can get a free upgrade, but I think more of the thing from PlayStation is like, oh, it's on PS Now, but you can't get the PS5 version for free. Like, you can only do the PS4 version. So yeah, if it's not one thing, it's another.
Yeah, I'm glad to see this game though coming to the series and everything, coming to PlayStation 4 and 5, and it's not just going to be stuck on PC for a long time, because that was what we saw for a while, and came into the Xbox what is that called, where like you can get it early access or whatever,
the preview.
The preview and everything. I remember it being on that for a while as well. So glad to see that. May 14th, just around the corner, guys. Definitely check it out.
3 weeks,
and both of them are coming the same day. So
Yep.
There you go, guys. Moving on to some more state of play details. We mentioned it earlier, but Among Us is coming to the PlayStation 5 and the PlayStation 4 this year, and we'll have Ratchet and Clank skins with pets. I'm assuming Ratchet will be the skin, and then the pet will be Clank.
Yep.
But yeah, I'm excited, man. That's awesome.
I know. Like, and it's I wonder if Nintendo will go back and add some, because I don't think they added, because when they've added like other games in the past, like when one's been only on one platform and the other games come to, like, they give like incentive, like Minecraft, when it came to Xbox, you got Xbox theme skins with it. With when it came to the Switch, you got Mario and Princess Peach theme skins with it. I'm surprised Nintendo didn't do a theme skin with Among Us, but maybe since it's a more violent game, they're figuring, let's not do that. But Ratchet and Clank's not really that violent either, at least not with Among Us. So it's interesting that they wanted to do that. But PlayStation probably threw money at them and like, hey, we'll give you money to put this exclusive thing on our.
And I think it's it's free advertisement.
Oh yeah,
for the game and everything that's fixing to come out. And like you said, Nintendo's very protective over their property, so I don't think they, were like, hey, let's have Mario like rip someone in half.
I know.
Let's not do that.
No, but it's great. Like I've been saying for I know I've joined in your Let's Plays streams for Among Us on mobile in the past, but I've said for a while, it's like once it comes to console, I want to do a full play. That way I can have audio. We can talk smack to each other, but I got you or whatever, But this is exciting because I will buy it again for play. Like it was free on mobile, obviously, but I'll buy it for PlayStation. I'll buy it for Xbox. It'll be one of those Overwatch things where I'll buy it for multiple systems. Yeah,
because it's like $4.99 or $5.99 on consoles.
It's really cheap. So
because we bought it on I bought it for PC and I have it on Switch as well and on my mobile devices. So excited to see it coming to PlayStation 5 and PS4 this year, and getting that cool Ratchet and Clank skin. Moving on to some more PlayStation news. PlayStation is partnering with Firewalk Studio, which is composed of former Destiny, Halo, and Call of Duty talent, for a new AAA multiplayer IP.
I mean, if you couldn't tell by the pedigree of people that's in that studio that they're working on a multiplayer game, then you're just ignorant, It's basically like holding a flashing sign like, Destiny multiplayer, Halo mainly multiplayer, Call of Duty mainly multiplayer. I wonder what game they could be working on, So I think it's go ahead.
They're clearly working on the next Stardew Valley. At this.
Oh yeah. No. I was gonna say the next Command and Conquer.
Yeah. The next My Little Pony.
Right. No, the next Hannah Montana the game.
Oh man, Hannah Montana the game. Yeah, and which will be followed up by a new Barbie game.
Exactly, 100%. But yeah, this is a good sign because PlayStation. We'll get to it here in some later stories, but last week they talked about as well that they want to double down on new IP or like new content blockbusters or like basically third-party timed exclusives, like first-party content. They want to double down on the exclusives part and the first-party development part. So working with a new studio on a multiplayer IP, and it goes back to what we were talking about too. Like how Sony's like, yes, we are great at making single-player games. And, the Sony of old back in PS3 games, they kind of got a little too big for themselves on multiplayer, and they weren't ready for that infrastructure just yet. Now it's come full fold. It's like, all right, we've got the formula for single-player games down. Let's go back to the multiplayer world because that's where the money is, evidenced by Fortnite, COD, Warzone, any big insert any big multiplayer game that makes a lot of money every year here. So it's like, hey, instead of working with trying to get exclusives on like Battlefield or Call of Duty or whatnot, let's make our own new IP and partner with somebody whose talent is pedigreed in multiplayer.
Yeah, and I'm excited, man. Like with the possibility, it being Sony exclusive, and that has because. You think about it. Microsoft has 343. They used to have Bungie. They've got the Coalition. Pretty much Xbox was built off of first person shooters.
Oh yeah.
PlayStation, on the other hand, has been built off of the story aspect of things. Like, you know, it has not been first person shooters. Like, we got Resistance and we got Killzone.
Yep.
And that's it. And both of those are no longer going on. So, like, it's, you know, when
people want Resistance to come back, but it's not in the cards anytime soon.
You know, Resistance, the controllers were just like, the controls were just loose. I couldn't. I know you enjoyed it. I tried it.
I know I did.
I tried it, and I couldn't. Like, PlayStation 3 controls were just loosey goosey. I don't like it. I don't like it, but I'm curious to see where this goes and what games we could possibly get. New IP, guys, multiplayer focused. So exciting. Moving on, PlayStation Now to begin support for 1080p streaming in multiple territories over the coming weeks. I think this is something we desperately need with PlayStation Now.
It's about say at least something, you know what I mean? Like, if they're not going to work on a Game Pass contender, at least do something for your current service, right? And it's almost one of those, like, I know they just got into the 4K with PS4 Pro, you know, not a couple years ago. So I'm not entirely upset that they didn't have it at launch for PS Now, but why not for the PS5, you know, have this already from the get-go? Because, you know, it'll obviously, the update service will be rolled out in the next few weeks. It will be supported in Europe, US, Canada, and Japan, where PlayStation Now currently resides. So it seems like one of those but it's like, why did it take you this long to do now? Like, it seems like, but then again, we only saw a handful of years ago, maybe just last year, if that, that they dropped the price of PlayStation Now. It's like, hey, it's $10 per month now because they want to be competitive with Game Pass and they see what it does. So it's like, hey, let's put our focus into this. So I'd rather happen now than never. Yeah. But at the same time, it's like, what took so long to support this?
Yeah, and even with Stadia, which we'll talk a little bit about Stadia. It's like, you know, it's time to put up or shut up on this PlayStation.
Yeah.
PlayStation app has notched 100 million installs on mobile. I'm assuming this is the new update for PlayStation app, which I did open my PlayStation app this morning. I was reading this and it was like, oh wow, this UI feels so much better. Like the PlayStation app, I remember, was this janky mess. The new one, the functionality is so much better. I don't know if you have opened it recently, Derek, since the update, but it's so much easier to go in and look at trophies. That's how I was looking at trophies this morning and everything. But you can go in and look at trophies. It'll tell you percentage and all of that.
Right.
And we talked about the other day where you can go in if there's a hidden trophy, it will actually tell you what the hidden trophy is. What's nice is you can scroll down and pull from the top and see your messages or friends. It'll pop up and everything. It's really, really easy to do that. And you can go to the main menu. You've got Newz that has the PlayStation blog.
Oh wow,
where you can read.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I know. I was like, what? It has the PlayStation Store, and you can even tell, like, okay, if I go into let's say I found Horizon Zero Dawn, since it's on PlayStation Hits and it's free right now, you can put add to library and then you can tell it to download a console if it's connected to your PlayStation and everything. I didn't know that was a feature in the original one, but it never worked. So, and you've got...
And I'm sorry if you already mentioned this, but it's like, since it has the blog posts and like, can you set up notifications to let you know? It's like, hey, all of a sudden, like when they drop this new info, like say they drop new info on Horizon Forbidden West in the PlayStation blog, can you get a notification when it goes live or not really?
I know when it was I opened it this morning, it was like, you know, turn on notifications and all of that. I will say if you click it, it does pull up a browser inside of the app and everything.
Oh, okay.
So it's not like officially built in. Another thing I just looked at if you go across the bottom here, you click on it, it will pull up your library that you have on your PlayStation and everything.
Nice.
And so let's say Ghost, and then I can see everything about Ghost. Let's pull up a different one real quick. Let's say Jackbox, since I own it and everything, you can kind of see. Does it show your trophies? That's kind of weird. That would be something that I would like to be able to see. Is I guess this is more of the library function, actually, like on your PlayStation.
Okay.
So you can go through and find and say, okay, I want to download whatever game. So that's kind of cool. Much better like flow and function of the PlayStation app compared to what it used to be.
Yeah. Gosh, yes.
It was unusable.
It was basically just to add friends. Like if you ran into each other and be like, "Hey, I just got a PlayStation. Here's my username. Add it," and then like you can just go while you're there instead of having to try to remember it when you get home. Just go bloop.
Yeah, because like I'm trying to remember. I won't say your name out loud on here. I'm trying to. I think I remember it. You hardly ever get on, so I never see you on.
Well, I first of all, hush. Second of all, I put it as appear offline.
Okay. Oh, I'm just trying to find it. Anyway, so I could like message somebody, and you could actually, from what I'm seeing, we'll try it with Dan's account. Instead of going to a separate app, it's in this app because messaging was in a separate app for a while as well.
Okay.
So a lot of cool things that have been added to that. I'm really, really excited.
It's almost like Sony gets, if they put some love and attention to something, people will enjoy it. What a concept!
What? That's crazy talk.
I know.
Crazy
now
talk.
If they can just do it with the rest of their like features, like PlayStation Now or whatever, that'd be great. But
yeah, hopefully. Moving on. Herman Holst says PlayStation is still committed to making experimental games. Yes, okay, I didn't skip anything.
No.
And this is something we have talked about the last few weeks about PlayStation being focused on the big sellers, and I think a lot of people started reporting on that, so they were just like, oh crap, we need to put out the fire.
Yeah, I'll say whether it's backtracking or it was misinterpreted, they're trying to get out the message like, hey, look, we still want to do it, but we may not invest as much money as we used to in the past on this. We want to invest in known quantities and like big blockbusters that'll make us money, not some small indie games that will get us some revenue, but not as much as like say God of War. Because in the quote, it was an interview with in gamesindustry.biz, and Herman says, I think that the games that we make are as distinct and diverse as they can be, from Sackboy to Astrobot to Dreams, to these kind of games that you're referring to, like The Last of Us Part 2 and Ghost of Tsushima. And you can bet that we will carry on making these games because they are the heart and soul of what we do here at PlayStation Studios. But at the same time, we are just as committed to making these quality experiences as we are to experimentation and to coming up with fresh ideas. I am very interested in creating a diverse slate of titles. Actually, the shape or form that they come in are less interesting to me than the fact that they are differentiated, diverse, and distinctive.
Mm. Can you do something for me, Derek?
Yeah.
Can you go out and come back into the call? Because like you're like lagging on me.
Okay.
So just to kind of go over that, like I'm curious to see what he's talking about on that. All right, let's see. Go ahead and talk to me, Derek.
Yeah. Hello.
Yeah, there we go. Perfect.
Okay. We'll do it live, guys.
So like in my mind, it's like they're saying, we're wanting to do this, we're not going to pour a ton of money into it. But we're more interested in games coming out than staying in development forever. Yeah.
So, and it, obviously, like we've said multiple times, no one wants to be the case study is Dreams. Look how long the game was in development. Look how it's great from a creation tool standpoint, but overall the game didn't sell gangbusters compared to Horizon, Ghost of Tsushima, Last of Us, and they're like, we don't need to do this again. Like, and to an extent, it's a fair observation. Like, why keep pouring money and getting so little in return? It's sort of like, you know, if it's kind of, maybe this is not the greatest of analogies, but you know, it's like you go to your doctor and they say, oh, if you don't change your diet, you're gonna die of a heart attack or like die of diabetes in like a few years, and you keep getting Oreo cookies or keep getting a Big Mac from McDonald's. You know, it's like if you don't change something and you just slowly are killing yourself, you know, you don't want to keep investing into that kind of idea.
Dude, I get a McFlurry that is made of a Big Mac and Oreo cookies.
Man, so you get 2 in 1, the sweet and the savory. I hear you, brother.
Yeah. Heart healthy.
Exactly.
I put that sticker on the side of that large McFlurry.
But yeah, so and I think, to be fair, like now that this has come out, like whether like I said, whether it's backtracking, whether they was just misinterpreted the first time around, Sony's like, hey, look, we're not afraid to be weird from time to time. But we're not going to be like PS3 weird, where we're putting out just like throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks. I think you're kind of seeing that with Xbox, but Xbox is doing it from a standpoint where they're letting people be creative, whereas in the PS3 cycle, PlayStation was just trying to give people reasons to buy a PS3 at this point, you know? Xbox is like being like, hey, look, some of you guys that have been with us from the get-go, you're only known for this property or this franchise or this one game. We want to let you branch out, spread your wings a little bit, get creative, get weird, and let's see what sticks. Let's see, like we saw, like Bleeding Edge, like we reported on that, like it's not getting any new content. It's not doing that. But Ninja Theory, Microsoft owed it to Ninja Theory that after working on Hellblade and making that game was great, that won a ton of awards, especially just from like the audio perspective and mental health perspective. They owed it to him to like, hey, let's just do something different. We've been talking about a multiplayer game. Let's just do this. And it didn't give them great ROI, if much at all. But, you know, Microsoft wants to let their studios experiment for a minute, whereas PlayStation's like, we'll do it within reason, but we also want to do gangbusters too.
Yeah, it's like if you did a good job on your last game, you're gonna make that another game like that.
like Housemarque, right? Yeah. Like Housemarque, like, you know, they did Resogun, put them on the map, and you know they let them be weird and do some middling titles. Then they figured out, all right, let's stop doing this. Let's come back to the drawing board. And Returnal's out now. Reviews are positive about it. It's doing great. So maybe this will give a fresh new coat of paint for Housemarque, and maybe even let PlayStation continue partnership with them to do other things in the future.
Yeah, and I'm excited. I'm glad to see Housemarque get out of the arcade genre, which they were great at, but it just wasn't selling, and people weren't getting to enjoy their games. So now people are actually going to get to see Housemarque for the development, like the skill that they have at game development. So let's move on. Speaking of developers, Last of Us Part 3 has a plot outline, but not currently in development right now.
This is interesting.
I don't need to know that Last of Us Part 3 has an outline. If you're not working on it, it's not, moving forward right now. I don't need to know anything about this. And I feel like Naughty Dog is struggling in a way. Like in the terms, it's like they're being pulled in so many directions because we're constantly reporting on Naughty Dog, and it feels like they're just literally, the old torture devices where it would like shackle your hands and your feet, and then it would like stretch you out. That's what it feels like. That's happening to Naughty Dog right now. And
I think I don't know. Obviously, we don't know all the behind closed door meetings that, Naughty Dog, like Neil Druckmann has with Sony execs and whatnot. So maybe there's some pressure because they're obviously yes, there's the pillars. Obviously there's Naughty Dog, there's Guerrilla, there's Santa Monica, there's Sucker Punch, and now there's Insomniac. So those are the key pillars for PlayStation Studios right now. But Naughty Dog is arguably the poster child because they've won the most awards for a lot of their games. So the pressure's on them to stay relevant. And, I think with all these comings out, Last of Us Remake is not being handled by Bluepoint or like a smaller studio to give the workload off of Naughty Dog. We're going to work on up to 5 projects right now. Granted, we're going to give one more attention or the focus of the attention right now than the others. But all this, and I think the pressure there's probably some pressure on them to maintain, because Sony probably came to Naughty Dog and be like, hey, look, you're a poster child for our company.
Yeah.
We need you to deliver. We need you to develop. We need you to churn out stuff probably a little bit faster than you probably would anticipate, but we need you to keep putting out gangbusters, keep doing this, keep bringing us more money is what I'm hearing, and I think and that leads into what I'm going to say about, this outline leaking is it's twofold. I think it's a twofold thing. One, it's to the investors to say, hey, look, we're not going to just up and abandon Last of Us franchise. We still have plans for it, whether we get to it in the next 3 years or the next 10 years. We have something already in the works, or have a rough idea of what we're going to do. And it's a thing I think it's also a thing to the fans, or to them, and being like, hey, look, we're going to keep doing this. We still have ideas. Like, this is still going to be in the forefront of our mind, because Uncharted was great. Uncharted 4 was definitely great of a game, but you could argue that Last of Us put them in a different mindset to basically like, oh, we can play with the big boys, we can come for, maybe not in terms of revenue, but in terms of mind share. But we can go for the CODs, we can go for the Fortnites, we can be in the same airspace as those games, So, and I think whether unwarranted or not, it's definitely, I think, put pressure behind closed doors for Naughty Dog.
Yeah, I agree, because like you think of Uncharted. Everybody loved Uncharted, but it didn't make Naughty Dog until Last of Us. That was the one, like, we had Uncharted 3, which everybody was like, oh man, that's great. Uncharted 2, probably my favorite other than 4. Probably out of the first the trilogy, the first part too. Anyway, Last of Us put them on the map, and then it was like, oh. And then you saw the development for Uncharted 4. It was so good. It was such a good game. And then we've got Last of Us 2. And, like you were saying, it's putting pressure on them. Like, they are competing with bigger games than ever, and if they're wanting it fast, they're going to have to spend more money to keep the quality of what Naughty Dog is known for, and I think Sony is fine with that. They're fine with hiring more people to be able to turn the quality that Naughty Dog has, but faster. So they're going to invest more money. They're going to bring in more developers.
Right, and we just talked about last week that because like you said, they're expanding studios, expanding teams, and Sony's doing that for a plethora. Like Guerrilla's got at least a 2-story building with multiple teams working in their new building space. But we saw a former Naughty Dog person. I forget like how high up the food chain he was, but he left Crystal Dynamics and came back to Naughty Dog. And who knows? Maybe Neil Druckmann or someone at Sony called him and was like, "Hey, look, are you happy here at Crystal? No, you want to come back for us?" He was
the game director for Avengers and came back over to Naughty Dog because they're going to need that kind of talent, somebody that can lead a game development and everything. So curious to see what's going on there. I do hope and pray that they're not getting torn thin.
Yeah, me either. Because we saw I forget who was it. Bruce Straley was also with Neil Druckmann at Naughty Dog, and because he left. Yeah, because he left over. I forget. I remember some things being about creative differences. I saw some other things like he was just burnt out by this increased demand from Sony. So, but he left, and who knows? I wonder if Neil will be able to handle this. And I think giving more people in the studio to not be always the talking point will help. Because in the interview, Neil, there's a quote here that he says, "I don't know how much I want to reveal. Co-writer Haley Gross and I did an outline for a story that we're not making, but I hope one day can see the light of day. That explores a little bit what happens after the game. We'll see. These games take so much to make. Part 2, I've been thinking about it for 7 years between when the last game came out and when this came out. Wow. You want to make sure you're jazzed by the idea that you have, that it feels like it's challenging. We've had 2 games that I feel speak to something universal, as well as telling a very personal story for these characters. With one game that there's no pattern of what a franchise is. With 2 games, now there's a starting pattern, or starting to be a pattern. Now I feel like there are some structural and thematic themes you'd have to stick to if you're making a 3rd game."
Yeah. So I think, it's like he wants to make sure that there's an outline, and I feel like they're just trying to grab headlines. Like, we don't need to know this. This could be an internal thing. Like,
yeah.
So like I said, I'm hoping that development for whatever properties that they're working on goes well, that, they're not being, ripped to shreds and torn in different places just to fill a quota, because I would hate to see such a great developer fall so hard.
Yep.
The Icarus story comes to mind here. But let's move on. We're an hour and 30 in on just the episode part. So let's do slight quick hits on these next few. Sales numbers for the PlayStation, 7.8 million. I wish, man. 78 million.
I know.
Means we won't have a shortage. 7.8 million. PS5 sold worldwide. 3.3 million sold in the first quarter of 2021. PS4 and PS5 combined sales reached 61.4 million in quarter 4 of 2020. PS Plus subscriptions hit 4.6 million worldwide, and the game and network services divisions post best year with 24.4 billion in revenue.
Yeah, and the combined is the game sales. Like, that's not consoles, that's like game software sales. And then you kind of flubbed the subscribers is 47.6 million worldwide.
There you go.
So, but yeah, so obviously, like we saw with Xbox, the fiscal years ended last month. They want to share how they're doing it. It's a thing. So the consumers like us know how well it's doing, or if it's troubling, or just to show the numbers. It's interesting that PS Plus subscribers have gone up that much. I'm curious to see if that's included with PS Now, or like how PS Now subscribers are factor into that. But the network services and games division making 24.4 billion with a B is definitely means that Sony's not going anywhere. And I assume, like, how many of that was just Ghost of Tsushima and Last of Us, and then Spider-Man Miles Morales sales? How much did those factor in?
Yeah.
But the network services is huge. Billion with a B. It means the industry's healthy. It means Sony's going to be healthy and around for a long time. 7.8 million PlayStation sold. It's still weird that as we talked about in the previous story, that Xbox, their revenue is up 232%, mainly because of consoles, but they didn't release any numbers. It's like, I wonder if this is just a Phil Spencer thing at this point, that Microsoft doesn't care to give out unit numbers for consoles. And it's just like, look, we're worried about Game Pass. We're worried about those subscribers. We don't care how many people, because we've already stated, we don't care where you play, just as long as you invest in our games. We don't care where you play. So I wonder if that's just the mindset going forward, that they don't care to put out unit numbers anymore.
Yeah, and it totally could be. Like, it could be, just saying, hey, we're not concerned about that. We're focused on gamers, and I could definitely see that. Sony is, they're going to keep putting it out. It's like, hey, we don't know your numbers, so we're just going to say that we're winning. It's optics at this point in time. It's definitely optics.
If you're not first, you're last. You know what I mean?
Yeah. El Diablo, fighting chicken.
But and it kind of goes into another point. It's funny, it's 7.8 million, but it's kind of like it takes a downturn toward the end here. But we'll get into that in just a moment.
Yep. Sony expects first-party game sales to increase year on year following strong 2020 fiscal year. We
can combine the next one too.
Sony to increase investment in PlayStation first-party endeavors over the next year by $183 million. And
it goes, and it goes back to what we talked about last week, right? About they're doubling down. They want them. They know. They remember the time that they didn't have much to put out for first party at the beginning of the PlayStation 4 cycle. They still sold gangbusters for consoles. Let's get that straight. But that was more than Xbox shooting themselves in the foot than anything.
Yep.
But I digress. They don't want to be in that predicament again. They want to have, and they see, like, once Uncharted hit, like, they had a big blockbuster pretty much every year. Like, It was Uncharted 4, then the next year was Horizon, then the year after that was God of War and Spider-Man. Then I forget what 2019, even though it came out to mixed reception, Days Gone was big for them. They marketed that as like up there with them. Then last year you saw Last of Us Part 2 and Ghost of Tsushima. So they know what their properties can do now. So they don't want to ever go away. They can get away with going maybe a calendar year without a huge exclusive. They can put out some mid-tier exclusives and be all right. But they know they don't want to go more than a year without having some AAA game that'll move consoles come out for them.
Yeah. They also had Death Stranding in there as well.
Yeah, I thought there was something else that year too. So thank you for that. But yeah, and they're not just saying this; they're putting their money where their mouth is by putting all this revenue or this cash toward making sure that they have quality investments in exclusives or partnerships to bring. Because Deathloop, Tokyo Ghostwire, Final Fantasy 16, they're all made by third-party people, but they have exclusive either whether it's sole exclusivity or timed exclusivity on PlayStation. So PlayStation's like, look, we're going to take some of the pressure off our studios to not produce every year, or at least someone produce every year, by going to other developers and being like, hey, you have a great game here. Put it on ours. How much you want for it?
I wouldn't say Tokyo... I mean, that's
just an example, but yeah. Who knows? Maybe it's a lot better than we last saw it, because it's been about a year since we last seen. But
hopefully it's better.
Time will tell.
All right, guys, and the last bit of news before we get into the quick hits: Sony doesn't expect the piece. Let's try that one more time, guys. Sony doesn't expect the PlayStation 5 supply to drastically improve over the next year. I know this is a topic that we've talked about several times, dealing with like the chips that have to go into it and everything. We were hoping for, summer, and then it moved into the fall, and now it's till, next year.
Yeah, I know. And, there's a quote here from Sony CFO saying that, as I said earlier, we're aiming for more sales volume than the PS4 during year 2, but can we drastically increase the supply? No, that's not likely. And it's like, he says he follows it up with the shortages of semiconductors is one factor, but there are other factors that will impact on the production volume. So at present, we'd like to aim at second year sales of 14.8 million, which was the second year of PS4. So it sounds like they're tempering expectations, but also trying to keep, say, oh, well, the PS4 only sold this much, so realistically we can match that. It's like, but can you?
Yeah, and it's also like, okay, yeah, the PlayStation 4 sold that, but think about the PlayStation 3 before that. It didn't sell that well. Like, it sold okay, but you're coming off of the best generation since the PlayStation 2. And you're saying, okay, we're just going to match pace with the PlayStation 4 on its second year. Yeah. You should be double
striving for higher. Yeah. And I mean, but it goes back to tempering, because they realize it's like, look, if these part shortages are going to continue throughout the year, we have to realistically temper expectations and be like, look, we can shoot for our pie in the sky, but until it's like resources, until the resources are there, we can't realistically hit that.
Yeah. So I'm hoping, hopefully this shortage will go away. There won't be an artificial shortage of different things. Wood costs so flipping much right now. It's ridiculous. So there are the big discussions, guys, and we're going to get into the quick hits. Before we do, you can go over to patreon.com/nerdcave. Support us over there, just like our awesome Patreon members have already done. So they've become part of the ship, part of the crew, just like you can. It helps us produce quality content like this each and every week, along with our normal live streams that we do on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday at 7 p.m. Central Time, and Saturday mornings at 10 a.m. So go over there, toss us a few dollars, and make me smile like this. Mm-hmm. Just like that. That's like a bad smile. All right, Derek. Oh, sorry. All right. No, your name's not Derek.
Yeah, Ignacio
Ortega. Take it away with the quick hits this week.
So, first of all, Sony's Gran Turismo officially joins the Olympic Virtual Series. Battlefield 6 reveal coming, quote, soon will offer, quote, jaw-dropping experience. Probably E3 would be the best case scenario for that, if that's the only coming soon, unless they plan to do a reveal before that in May. Assassin's Creed Valhalla update patches will be less frequent, but better in quality. Witcher Monster Slayer AR mobile game expected to release this summer. Respawn in early phases of building a new franchise. Marvel Avengers MCU outfits leak. Ghost and Goblins coming to PS4, Xbox One, and PC on June 1st. Knockout City coming to EA Play on day one, which means, because EA Play is part of Game Pass, it'll be part of Game Pass too, technically. Apex Legends adds new permanent 3v3 mode. Fortnite adds Neymar Jr., who's a big soccer or football star for Battle Pass owners. Resident Evil Reverse multiplayer reportedly delayed till summer and will likely to fix server and matchmaking issues. A new iOS update adds support for PS5 and Xbox Series X controllers. Titanfall 2 player count up 750% on Steam. New Outer Wilds, not Outer Worlds, Outer Wilds, the smaller indie title. That also is a great game. DLC possibly on the way as Echoes of the Eye leaks on Steam. Nearly 50% of Fortnite's total revenue has been generated by PS4 players. After 500 days, Stadia finally has a search bar. Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order coming to PS5 and Xbox Series X and S this year, and will have a free upgrade for PS4 and Xbox One owners. Destiny 2 getting Vault of Glass raid from the first game coming out on May 22nd. Toys for Bob, who did the Skylanders game, but also did the Spyro Reignited trilogy, is now taking charge of COD Warzone development. Then we've got, it's the end of the month, guys, so guess what? New games with gold and new PS Plus games announced. So games with gold for May are as follows. The entire month you get Armello. From May 16th to June 15th, you get Dungeons 3. From May 1st to May 15th, you get Lego Batman 1. And then from May 16th to May 31st, you get Tropico 4. Then for the PS Plus games for May, for PS5, you get Wreckfest, which will be coming with all new features, I think, in June, for like PS5 proper features for June. And then in PS4, you get Battlefield 5 and Stranded Deep.
All right. So something I just noticed, there was a point in time where PlayStation would give a VR game each month.
Yeah, I think that was just a test field to see if, that would increase PSVR stuff.
Yeah, that's kind of sad, though. Though I don't have a VR, I have a lot of those games.
I
know. A quick few things that I wanted to kind of just hit real quick since we're closing in on an hour and 45. Toys for Bob taking over COD Warzone development. That's pretty big. That means that both Warzone and Black Ops 4 or Black Ops Cold War, they're wanting to move those teams into developing what they need to be developing instead of Warzone.
Yeah, because who worked on Warzone? Was it just like whoever's Call of Duty game was that year, or was it Infinity Ward?
I think Infinity Ward's been doing it. I'm not 100% sure. I think Infinity Ward's been doing both sides of it. But having Toys for Bob take over is interesting, which it seems like they've been kind of like their remaster kind of cats and everything. So,
and it's ironic because they just absorbed Vicarious Visions into Activision proper, and now it's like, what are we gonna do for you, Toys for Bob? You haven't really done anything since the remaster. Let's not absorb you too. Let's just have you work on our cash cow, which is Warzone.
Yeah, so I'm curious to see where that goes, if they just become a part of the Call of Duty side of development and everything. And then Apex, having that huge of an increase, 750% just on Steam alone. I think, You mean
Titanfall 2?
Titanfall 2. There we go. Having that, I think a lot of people from Apex, because we talked about them having over 100 million players last week, that people are curious with the new character coming in. What is this Titan?
Valkyrie.
What is this Titan deal and everything? So it's awesome to see. And then one that was interesting to see, Witcher Monster Slayer AR mobile game expected to release this summer. So it's like a Pokemon Go version of The Witcher, I guess.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
So, I'm curious to see where that goes. And then speaking of Respawn, the developer of Apex and Titanfall, in early phases of building a new franchise.
Yeah, that's like, it's great, but also concerning at the same time, because then that means because let's see, they have Titanfall, and they said that, obviously the blame has been passed back and forth between EA and Respawn about who wants to do a third entry into the title, but that'll probably push development further away from Titanfall 3. What does that mean? Because they've already have Apex. You're guaranteed that they're working on a sequel to Jedi Fallen Order. So like, why? It's almost like yes, I know EA bought them, and I'm sure EA has, again, throwaway money that they can just give them to probably either add new people or build a second team to help with this. But at the same time, it's like, don't overbear yourself. You're now just getting up there. Don't soil yourself at this point by doing more than you can deal with.
Yeah. So I'm curious to see what that is, but it's like, I want you to be able to focus on the things that you're doing well, because Apex is constantly like, they're adding like we just
that's a full-time job in and of itself.
Yeah. They're adding a 3v3 mode. They're constantly adding characters. They've got seasons. Their seasons are pretty short, so they're constantly having to put out new content for their seasons and everything. And then the last one I just wanted to point out, nearly 50% of Fortnite's total revenue has been generated by the PS4. Fortnite's on everything: Switch, Xbox, mobile, PC, everything. It just goes to show that the PlayStation 4 has sold so well that so many people are playing on the PlayStation. And 50%, because I think half of it.
Nearly. Yeah, I'm about to say nearly half of it. And I saw the breakdown too. I forget where I think Xbox was second and Switch was third, but mobile generated the small. It only generated 7% of their revenue.
Interesting.
So, yeah,
very interesting. Guys, you know what else is interesting? You hitting that follow or subscribe button right now, so you don't miss out on any of the video game news that you need to know, that we bring you each and every week on twitch.tv/Nerd Cave Network and at youtube.com/Nerd Cave Network. Guys, we appreciate your time, and we hope that you enjoyed it. Let us know what your favorite story was down in the comments below, and if we got anything wrong, let us know down in the comments. We will be back next week sometime. We'll let you know. Keep abreast on our social medias, and we'll let you know, and come and join us for the rest of our streams on Monday, Tuesday, and Thursdays at 7 p.m. and 10 a.m. over on Saturday mornings. And guys, make sure to go to patreon.com/nerdcave. Support us there, just like our awesome supporters did: Brandon Hicks, Richard Newell, Daniel Sanford, Rushing Waters Yoga, Marilyn James, Martin Sager, and Brittany the Granny B. Harrison. They helped us out. They supported us, keeping the lights on, keeping Derek in fancy crop top polos and everything. Ignacio Ortega in his crop top polos. Guys, we appreciate it so much. This has been Zach
and Ignacio Ortega.
Y'all have a blessed week. Bye.